it's important to have an understanding of what we're trying to get done with the inside player in these gap combinations. Okay. The player who is responsible when he walks up to the line of scrimmage, he has an uncovered inside or backside gap. Because in our double teams and our gap schemes, our primary responsibility is to our inside gap or our backside gap. So let's go through it. If I'm a right-sided player, okay, and you can see from our diagram here, this would be like there is a play going to the right. I am a right-sided player. Here are the feet of these blockers, and these shoulder pads represent the D lineman. My priority gap is to my inside. When I walk up to the line of scrimmage and that gap is uncovered, my first thought is that I am going to utilize what we call load and launch footwork. We are going to load with our foot in our uncovered gap, what you'll also hear me refer to as our priority gap. And I'm going to launch with my near foot, the closest to the man, the foot closest to the man, down the middle, through the crotch of the defender that we're combinationing with. Now, let's get into some of the nuance of this. Our aiming point in terms of our eyes is that my eyes are through my gap and on the linebacker that I'm responsible for. Now, I'm going to say that one more time. My eyes are through my gap and on the linebacker that we are combinationing to. I have to protect my gap. If I have anything in the world that runs in my gap, it is my job to get hat speed in front of it and shut the door with my body and his. We can have no run throughs and no penetration. We'll see that as we go. So what does this load mean? My first step is my load step. All that means, and this is a good example down here, is we're going to open our inside hip. We're going to open our toe and open our hip to be able to create space and power for our near foot and our near knee to surge. What this should do is just pivot and open. We really shouldn't gain any ground with this load step. But the most important thing is every time we load, we look. So as soon as this foot opens, my eyes snap over and I get my eyes in my gap. The only time that I would be trying to gain any type of ground into my priority gap with my load step is if I know I'm going to have an immediate threat, and in which case I'm going to become a covered drive blocker regardless. Now, my second step is through the crotch of a defender. I'm going to take as big and as heavy and powerful as a covered knee as I can to be able to play on the defender's line of scrimmage. Sometimes when we are in head-up techniques, this can look like our feet are spreading. But whenever we're trying to play a shade, and really when we are trying to play head-up techniques, we're not trying to put ourselves through as inside players in these combinations. We're trying to get the play started right now. And that's a really, really important point. We are not trying to force the inside player through in these combinations. And I'll talk about that as we go. So now, how do we strike the defender? So here we are. Here's our feet again. So I've loaded with my left, eyes in my priority gap. I've launched with my right. My right knee is driving through the crotch. We are trying to target with our down shoulder, and this is a really great picture here, right through the sternum. So we target the sternum in drive blocks as well. That's one of the reasons that this piece of footwork and these double teams are cousins of drive blocks. I'm trying to target with my shoulder, and I'm trying to let my hands be secondary. That is certainly true when we are dealing with a shade like you see right here in our bottom, in this bottom picture. This defender is truly shaded on what would be a left lineman with the ball going to the left over here. He's going to target with his shoulder and let his hand fit underneath low late. What we have gone to, admittedly, to try to force this issue as best we can is while we're trying to target low with our down shoulder, we have tried to fit our hands two hands on the down lineman so we can help the gap driver clean this picture up. But even if I take a two-hand fit, my eyes are in my gap and on my linebacker. Now, keys. I talked about this already. If we have any type of run through or any type of, whether it's a linebacker run through, whether it is a down lineman crossing the face of the player that's inside of me from the backside to the play side, I've got to be able to get my hat in front, collect it, and pin it. I've got to keep that thing inside of me and on the line of scrimmage, okay? If the player that I'm combinationing to, and we're combinationing to the linebacker, if he crosses my face, I'm trying to do the same thing. What you'll see is that's what we're trying to force. We are trying with the outside player in this combination, who we call the gap driver, we're trying to target and throw him across the down man, across the face of the inside player in the combination. We're trying to throw him inside on the way to the lap of the linebacker, if that all makes sense. If he doesn't move, we're just going to stay attached, and we're going to see examples of that as we go. So, load and launcher. I walk up to the line of scrimmage. My inside gap is uncovered. I'm thinking load and launch footwork. Load with my inside foot, launch with my covered foot, targeted with my down shoulder, trying to get two-hand fit. I'm sensitive to the gap driver, which is the other player in this combination. It would be like this outside player here. He is going to be running through or galloping through on angle to the linebacker that we're combinationing to. This is going to make a lot more sense when we turn the tape on here in a moment. But his target is he's trying to put his down shoulder through the bottom of the numbers, through the sternum of the down lineman that's inside of him. And you'll see that as we go. But let's review ourselves on this load and launch technique. So here we are. This is a right-sided lineman. It doesn't matter who he is. He's walked up to the line of scrimmage. His inside gap is uncovered. He's thinking load with his left, launch with his right. Open my toe, open my knee. Every time I load, I look. My eyes are looking inside. I'm looking over here at this linebacker through my priority inside gap. And I'm going to strain and drive my covered half through the sternum and getting my down shoulder through the bottom of the numbers of the defender. There it is. Load, launch. Load, launch. There's rhythm. We are playing on their side of the line of scrimmage. My hand is going to get fit in late. You can see the overemphasis on him targeting with his shoulder. Stay down. I'm sensitive to the movement of the outside player, who's obviously not in this block. Now, this also gives us a couple different other keys that we want to be tied into. When we are going to take a one-hand fit like this, we want to be able to leave the hand opposite of our covered hand free. And that's to prevent versus any run through. That's especially critical in vertical double teams that are going to go dead vertical, not as much for what we're talking about today. Secondarily, as we start to create movement versus a lineman who is going to stick. Let's say that we came through as the gap driver and we were too tall, or he just didn't move because he's a big, strong joker, and he sticks and he hangs in our gap. Then we want to be able to drive our knee, not our hip. When we drive our knee, like we see in this picture, I stay strong. I stay square. Square is strong. We knock people vertically as we advance our knee into people. You can feel the knee drive. If we drive our hip and we start hipping into double teams, then I'm not square. I don't have enough surface area to be able to blunt and stay attached on this defender. So that, once again, it becomes especially true when we are creating vertical double teams in plays like duo. But when we roll through these double teams and the outside player, the gap driver, can't knock him across the face of the inside player, then it's important that we stay attached with our eyes inside to be able to pick up any linebacker or any inside out movement.